tolerating uncertainty is really important with anxiety, Ruth. And the other thing is that's characteristic of anxiety is that we can get a bad case of the what ifs. What if this happens? What if my partner gets sick? What if I get sick? What if, my mother is ill? What if I lose all my money in my retirement account? And the what ifs really drive anxiety. And so one of the things that we teach people in cognitive behavioral therapy is when they find themselves getting into a loop of what ifs, is to turn to then what's. Instead of just obsessing and ruminating about all the what ifs, take the ones that bother you the most and actually come up with a very concrete plan. Well, what if I do get sick? Okay, these are the steps. And this ties in with what Ron said, is we need to be knowledgeable as healthcare professionals and know that, the what if, the then what for getting sick first is to assess how seriously you're ill, because there's stages to response, and then to know what are the symptoms that you need to take a more serious response, etc. But to have a then what plan and to talk that over with friends and family. With my sister and I, we've agreed we're going to be texting every day, for example. And if one of us gets a symptom, particularly I'm concerned about her since she lives alone, if she gets a symptom, she's going to tell me what it is. And then we have a plan for how we're going to evaluate if it's something that requires more, any particular response. So I think having then what plans here in California, while we have great weather, we also have recurrent disasters. We often say we have 4 seasons. We have earthquakes, mudslides, fire season, and drought. And so we have lots of disasters that we're currently cycling through. And one of the things that helps us as citizens is we have very specific then what plans to follow in each of those circumstances. So these are new times, these are new uncertainties, and it can be very helpful to settling anxiety to come up with very concrete then what plans, and then just kind of put them aside and know if you need them, you have them, but you don't need to keep obsessing about what if, because
as you talk about the what if and the what and what we would do in response, I think it's also important to keep in mind that we each have different styles of coping with these kinds of things. I was in Europe recently and had some uncertainty about how to get back to the States and what the quarantine status would be. And for me, it works better to do one day at a time. Okay, the choice now is how to get on a plane. And my daughter was saying, well, you have to cancel all your patients. You won't be able to see them in person. My wife is saying, I want to have a plan for when you get back about how we're going to socially isolate. And it was interesting to see our different coping strategies. That for me, it was, I'm going to do better to do what has to happen this hour, what happens to happen the next hour, and to believe in the self-efficacy to be able to tackle that. Whereas for other people, to have the contingency plans laid out is what's comforting. So it brought home to me that it's also useful to inquire for ourselves and our clients, what's better for you? Which particular strategy suits your needs better, since we are all facing such radical uncertainty?
A couple things that you triggered from everything you said. With Christine, you talked about the what ifs. I think there's also a tendency to go into the woulda, coulda, shoulda stuff. What if I would have taken my money out of the stock market, or what if I wouldn't have put it in, or what if I'd have put it in something safer, or if only kind of thing. And the same with perhaps contacts that we've, the degree to which we've isolated. And all of that is just going into a ruminating kind of building up the anxiety. The other thing I would say is think about who we can help take care of, who we can be part of someone else's common humanity, who needs looking out for. And that may include people who are needed. Like maybe we think about bringing them meals. If we've got physicians or nurses in our community, who are needed in the hospitals. Maybe we can think about who's healthy and able-bodied, who can look after their children or can bring them meals or something so that they can stay. They're going to be needed in a week or two. If capacity, if there's a buildup in the amount of people in the hospitals. This is an awful lot that we can do. And I think if we can focus on compassion, we can bring the best out we can bring out our best. Be the person, be the human beings that we would most want to be.
Yeah, and I think it's very important for us to recognize in ourselves, our clients, and everybody that both clear thinking and compassion tend to go offline when we're very frightened. So that we need to have a sort of healthy skepticism if we find ourselves spinning out of control with what if fantasies, realizing, okay, well, this is what being anxious is. It's losing the capacity to step back and think. And if we're all worried about me and not putting our efforts into reaching out to others, well, that's also what happens. Compassion tends to go offline when fight or flight predominates. And to just be nice to ourselves, to understand that, but also to do what we can to reinforce clear thinking and compassion.
Yeah.
And for therapists, I think this means we also have to be compassionate toward ourselves. And therapists, I think, are going to feel really split in this time between caring for themselves and family or friends and caring for their clients as well. And we're going to need to take care of ourselves so that we don't get spread too thin. And also realize that we can devote part of every day to self-care as well as caring for others.
Thank you. Thank you. That was Dr. Christine Padesky, Dr. Ron Siegel. I'm Dr. Ruth Basinski. We're all licensed psychologists here in California, Massachusetts, and Connecticut. Take good care, everyone. Bye-bye.